Hey everybody, welcome to the Ambitious Woman Lifestyle Podcast. We are your hosts, Mignon
and Paige Walthall.
And on today's episode, we'll be discussing seeking God and knowing when He has given us permission. Let's dive in. Okay, so maybe your waiting stage is because of a Laban spirit. And Laban was Jacob's uncle. So in Genesis 29, Jacob went and he met Rachel at a well, and Jacob wanted to marry Rachel. So what happened was Laban saw the benefit of having Jacob around, so he said, okay, if you work for me for X amount of times, I'll give you my daughter to marry. But because he was in love with Rachel, he did it. But when it came time for Jacob to marry Rachel, Laban did a switcheroo, tricked him, and gave him Leah instead. So when Jacob found out that Laban had tricked him, he like, what is this? I worked hard for you. What's going on? And Laban said, okay, if you work for me for this amount of time, I promise you this time I'll give you Rachel. And so he was like, okay, so he wanted Rachel. He wanted this thing. And he worked longer for Laban so he could get this woman he wanted so much. And then when he finally got her, Laban tried to keep him there and tried to guilt him because Jacob was ready to go, because Laban was using him basically to prosper because Jacob had that anointing on him. The problem is sometimes people will have you doing a specific job for longer than you need to be because they see that you are helping them get to where they want to go, where they want to be, but they don't want you to elevate past them. They don't want you to go because they don't want to let go of that favor they got with you being in their lives. So they're going to hold on to you and they're going to do trickeroos and stuff. And they're going to delay your path in God's plan because you're waiting on them to say, okay, now you can go and do this. Now you can start your own business, or you can start your own podcast, or you can start your own community. You're waiting on people to say, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, you should try that. But what if they don't? What if they don't say that? What if they're not lined up with God's purpose for your life?
And that's something that I definitely struggle with myself, with the place that I'm in, trying to figure out and discern if it's something that God is telling me to do or is it something that I just want to do. And so with that, I feel like I have to go to this person. Or there might be somebody that I feel like has a closer connection with God than I do, but sometimes they don't know what God has told me and they just going off of, like you said, what they think or how they feel, and they can put me off of the purpose God has for me because it is something that He told me. And instead of just obeying and doing it and figuring it out from there, I find myself in that situation a lot with seeking validation from other people. Question. How do you know that it's God giving you permission and not you giving yourself permission?
Because it won't work. I've tried doing stuff without God and it always flopped. It was not even a flop where you could recover. It wasn't a recovery flop. And it was quick. If He has a plan for you, He ain't just going to let you be out there just to be out there. He ain't going to do it. Especially if you walking with Him, you truly walking with Him and you seeking Him, He ain't going to just have you out there willy-nilly. And especially if you're tapping into the Holy Spirit, you going to feel it. You're going to feel when you out of sorts, when you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And if you committed to the Lord, that's when you know, like, God, I commit whatever you have for me. I commit my business to you. I could commit my ventures to you. If it is you, order my steps. I pray that every day for God to order my steps. So if I'm out of step, He gonna redirect me back to where I need to be because I've asked Him to order my steps.
to? Have you ever asked God for permission before doing anything?
Yes.
Anything?
Because before I didn't. Before I would just leap out there. I was leaping before God released me to leap. And the problem with that is that's why I was falling. That's why I kept on crashing. Because I didn't say, is it time to go now? I just got the word and went. I never prayed over it. I never wrote the vision down. So I just heard something and ran with it. That says Matthew about the seeds. When the sower of the seeds in Matthew, when Jesus was talking about some seed fell on rocky ground, some seed fell in good soil. I used to think that I was good soil until I realized that I was the shallow soil. It's the soil where he said it took root, but the things of life and the sun was too much and it burnt it out and it withered and died. That's how I was. Like I would start stuff. I would get a word and I would start it, but then it would become too hard. And then I was like, okay, I give up on that. And that's what I used to be. Because I didn't let it sink in. I didn't pray about it. I didn't seek God about it to know when to go. I just went. I was a sprinter. Like, give me a word, I was out. But I never let it sink in to get the rest of the instructions. And I think I told you and Logan about that, how about the business thing. I went and I stepped out. God told me it was okay to start a business, but when I did it and when I stepped out, I never asked him what was the next step.
You know how you said you were a sprinter. Do you think you can incubate for too long?
Yeah. That's being hindered, waiting for permission from other people. See, there's a thing. God will tell you, when God tells you to go, it will be like a pressure. Not a heavy pressure, but it will be, this may sound cliche, but it's like a fire down in your soul that you can't contain, that you can't control. Like, I know that's lyrics to a song. I know it's the song, but it's literally that. It's literally that. It's a fire down in your soul that you can't contain, you can't control, and you like, okay, God, if I just do this just to get the weight off. I'm just going to do this just to get the weight off.
How do you know? Am I seeking approval? Or is it good sometimes to, okay, if God tells me to do something, is it good sometimes too to get that? Because, you know, it says in the Bible that God will give you confirmation.
Yes, so there's the thing. If God said it, he's going to confirm it, whether you're seeking it or not. Like, you could get a word from God and reject it, and he can still confirm that this is the word I gave you. Why are you not pursuing it? Because he will come back. Because if it's genuinely his purpose for you to do such and such, he will say, okay, let's revisit this thing. You're not listening. Oh, no, come on back. You're not listening. So he will continue to confirm it whether or not you line up or you're not. And it's always our choice. You ever see that meme with that lady said, God sent me a sign, and there's a lady laid out with a stop sign on top of her? She got beat with it. Yes. That'd be God. And we'd just be laying there hurt, innocent as the sign, and it would get up and say, I'm still not sure if that was you or not. Because we be in our flesh, and we be trying to do what we feel like we should be doing rather than what he has told us to do.
I know I'll be getting in my own way sometimes. And I just be so frustrated with myself. Like, why are you making it so much harder than it has to be?
That all comes from, like I said, our insecurity, us not knowing who we are, because that's what, when I said in the beginning, I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know who I was. So that's why everybody was able to tell me not to do this, not to do that, and I stopped doing it. I was supposed to be an interior designer a long time ago. Do you know when I graduated high school, I actually wanted to get into architecture, but didn't, because I was told that's not a realistic job for a woman. So that's another way that can get us off our purpose, is by having too many voices, having too many people speak into our lives. God will tell you who he would want you to listen to, because that's what happens. You get delayed.
And I think a lot of people, with when people delay you, even if it's something that's not intentional on their part, I feel like because they didn't pursue their dreams because of whatever took place, I think they put that off on the next person.
You are absolutely correct. Projection. Yes. That's definitely projection. But here's the problem, and what they don't realize, and what everybody needs to realize. If you are still living, you still have time. If God is waking you up every single day, you still have time to do what you're meant to do. I don't care how old you are. That lady off of Black Panther, she was 80 something years old when she started acting and got the role on Black Panther. 80 something years old. You're never too old to do what you're meant to do. And that's what people need to realize. But they have to know who they are. And they can't know who they are if they don't know the person who made them the way they are.
It's true.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us some feedback by rating and leaving a review. Follow us on Instagram at Ambitious Woman Lifestyle, and we'll catch you next week.